world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
Score more with the college-branded Venmo debit card and earn up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash. Got paid back? With the Venmo debit card, you can instantly access your balance and spend on what you want, like game day snacks, gear, tickets, and more. The more you do, the more cash back you can earn. Plus, there's no monthly fee or minimum balance. Sign up now at Venmo.com/collegecard. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. Select schools available. Venmo Stash terms and exclusions apply at venmo.me/stash terms. Max $100 cash back per month.
This episode is brought to you by White Claw Surge. Great podcast pick, friend. No surprises there. After all, you're all about finding the tastiest flavors out there, just like White Claw Surge. And with big, bold flavors to enjoy, like blood orange, blackberry, cranberry, and more, it's time to go all in on taste. Unleash the flavor. Unleash White Claw Surge. Please drink responsibly. Hard seltzer with flavors. 8% alcohol by volume. White Claw Seltzer Works, Chicago, Illinois.
Hello everyone, I'm Chris Wynn. Welcome to How Are the podcast. And for those of you who listened to part one of our top 10 Derby victories special the other day, even though it's going to be a top 11, thank you very much and welcome to part two. And for those of you that didn't, here's a heads up that you missed the first six, which took us up to our 3-0 win in February 2014. And of course, we have to keep reminding ourselves which one that was because all those 3-0 victories just merge into one. We have another 5 to rank because we're in the middle of ranking our victories over the Mags in the Stadium of Light era. And because there's 11, we decided not to drop one and include them all. So again, welcome to part two. And luckily for me, I have the same two gentlemen with me who have had the tough job of placing them in order. And first up, we have Ant Waterson. Hello, Ant.
Hello, yes, or bonjour, as I should say after me attempted French the last time. Bonjour, Christophe. all good, mate.
and if you've noticed, if anyone who listened to part one will notice that Ant is a much braver man than me because I just kept teeing them up and waiting for these two to try and pronounce them first before I even attempted it because I am one of the worst at trying to attempt the pronunciations. But yeah, and again, we're halfway through, but it's again not just the memories of the games, and it's the little things I was talking about on the last time, like an elderly woman being at the doorway in the driving rain, enjoying it and all this sort of stuff. It's come back through these memories. It's how you feel, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. And you know what? Like I said, the last pod was just so enjoyable talking about like my first time seeing us beat them, the first time we beat them since I was alive, this, that, and the other. And obviously the ones we're going into a little bit later on, so you're kind of used to the winning that, but it never, that feeling never gets like, it never gets boring, does it? Beating them, that euphoric feeling you get is just, I wish I could bottle it because it's just such a lovely one. But yeah, obviously the last one's going down memory lane, and Kado Mangan getting a mention in the the podcast was unbelievable. But obviously some of these later ones are just as special as well. Obviously, we've got some cracking goals to talk about and some wonderful ones in the not too recent past. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one as well, man.
Yeah, going through these 11 games, I bet you if we asked 100 Sunderland fans which player would you not expect to come up in that podcast, it would be him. And he ended up cropping up. But also with us today, we have Andrew Smithson. Hello, Andrew.
Hello. Do you reckon John O'Shea's listening to these thinking, never lost to that lot in my career. I put me body on the line time and time again for Sunderland against that lot. Blooming Cara McGann's getting more name drops than I am. He'll be fuming.
Yeah, him and Liam Bridcut gets ahead of the likes of them. But But yeah, I do. It is brilliant, and it's funny because we went through the old ones, of course, first going back to the first Premier League season and the second Premier League season at the Stadium of Light. But once we get into this block, if you like, if you want to call it, it is difficult sometimes because we were doing it towards the end of part one where we were going, oh, was that one where there was that offside or where Pardew did his little dance or not? Because these just went bang, bang, bang. And when you go through them, even if you look at the dates and write them down, you are genuinely going 2 a year for a while, aren't you?
Oh yeah, it's amazing, and hopefully we can start doing it twice a year again now that we're both in the Premier League. If I can be greedy, and then the next time we sit down to do this, it will be like the top 20 or the top 25 wins over that list. But yeah, it is.
Cast that.
Oh, it would be. But it is. It's all these little memories, and you probably wouldn't remember if it was a game against some just like run-of-the-mill team. You probably wouldn't remember their manager celebrating a goal and then realizing it doesn't count, or you wouldn't remember half of these daft little side stories. But because it's them, just everything gets amplified and remembered.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, Nancy, we're talking about runs and things. And I mentioned actually that at one point during this, I think it was after the first 2 wins we talked about, we went on a run of 9 without a win against them. But it's funny now that, we're you've just broken the record for being unbeaten against them and all that. But it's funny, I can't remember it ever being a massive thing for us where it was like, yeah, okay, well, we've been beaten again and we might go through it. But okay, God, we're going to be disappointed, but I can't remember we didn't kick up a fuss or get, goal dramatic like it seemingly when Newcastle get beat off us in the modern day.
No, you're right. I mean, you're looking at like even the recent ones, as kickoffs about them wanting Eddie Howe sacked and all this stuff. Like a year after he's got them to a League Cup win and a Champions League, you're thinking, okay. And it is. I think every time we beat them, it's always been it's the manager's fault, isn't it? I mean, obviously, Hullett bit the bullet after that one, didn't he? I mentioned that one before. He got sacked not long after that, and even like great managers like Bobby Robson couldn't get it done. So, the fact that I think we're just a little bit more classier. I say after without going on to another rant. Maybe we I don't know. Maybe we're just a little bit more because it is the biggest game of the season, and it certainly is. And I think you'd be lying to yourself if you're thinking that it's not. It is the biggest game. It's the first season. It's the first game you look at when the games come out. First 2 games you look at it at Newcastle home and away. And there's so much that's built upon it. But I think what we also kind of look at is as well that the bigger picture is it's still a long, old, hard season. And I think with some of these games, especially some of the wins that come at a time where we weren't doing so well, so it meant so much more. And then just end up not doing very well until the end of the season, sacking a manager, getting saved, 5 games to go or whatever. But you mentioned before about runs, we're right, like in the depths of the 6 in a row at the minute now. And, there's not many that doesn't happen many times in derbies, does it? A team winning 6, a team now unbeaten in 14 years in the league. It just shows how good we've done against them. And now there's been gaps where we haven't played them and all this, that, and the other, but it's fun still, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I thought I'd tee you up for another line, like just saying we're more classy than them. And I thought I would give you the assist that you could just nod on from a yard out.
Yes, but you're not gonna get our fans attacking their bus. You're not gonna get our fans lying in the streets to have a go and throw bottles and like that. And as we said in the last podcast, that the lad turned around and go, "Why not in the pub? We're in the pub. We're building up to what's going to be a great game of football. We're not bothered about what they're doing. You know what I mean? I don't care. I don't care how they get it, how they get the game. I don't care if they enjoy the game or not. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Do you remember? I can't remember which. We've probably already gone over the win, but do you remember that moron who came with the big, like I think he embroidered it, and it was like "Let's all laugh at Sunderland," and he'd had it like he was holding it up and this, that, and the other. And then they showed a photograph of him afterwards with his head just chopped like that because we'd beat them. I think was it the Barini 2-1? I think it was that one where he was just like being a right arse. And then Karma came and dealt the cruel blow.
And the fact that it could be one of several fans. Just says the lot. I think, was he the one, or was it a different one, who likes to turn up for the games against us in full kit with the fake sleeve tattoos and the not just one pair of Newcastle United trainers, but different ones? So he has one black Newcastle trainer and one white Newcastle trainer. Is that the same
I'll have a
fan, or
look.
is that a different one? I noticed as well in this most recent game. Sorry, Chris, I know you want to record a podcast, but I'm on
That's
one
great.
now. And I am not classy. I know Ant says Sunderland fans are classy and behave themselves much better. I'm not. I'm just a bitter old man who is here to absolutely slate the mags. Did you notice on the most recent game that YI man turned back up at in the crowd? Do you remember when they brought out that fancy dress costume you could buy at the club shop in black and
Yeah.
white called YI man? Well, somebody on Sunday looked at his wardrobe and thought, nah, I'll not wear that sweater and jeans. I'll not wear that coat I got off me wife for Christmas. No, I'll go in fancy dress to the game, dressed as a fictional character called YI man. I mean, this is what we're having to deal with.
I mean, you'll not get a Sunderland fan going on a radio show and having saying, "Oh, well, I didn't like black. You know, I don't have black in my wardrobe. Didn't even like any black pudding out like that." You know, like that idiot who was going on about red. Didn't like ketchup, me. Well, I've no red, but he had a Newcastle brown ale thing on his top, which had red in it.
And
You know?
the same guy whose blood cells are literally red and white. They don't have
Yeah.
anything to do with red.
Well, like I might be proven wrong in the future at some point, and I'll hold my hands up if I am. But I just don't think if Sunderland lost out a Premier League title, if we were way ahead, in terms of points, and then we lost it later on, that we'd end up trashing the city. I just don't
No,
think that would
no.
happen. But
I think
but anyway,
the only time I can remember I wanted a manager sacked because of it was when Ryan Taylor scored that free kick and it was the Steve Bruce, wasn't it? I think I remember leaving the ground there wanting Steve Bruce sacked.
yeah, well, it wasn't because of that one game though.
But no, yeah, it was
Yeah.
over a certain amount of time. Like after the 5-1, I didn't want him sacked, even though it was
Yeah.
a horrible, horrible result.
Yeah.
But I can remember the 1-0 thinking, because he'd reached the end of his time, I think. I can remember that just thinking, but it wasn't just because we'd lost to them. That was it was a defining moment. Don't get us wrong, but not because of that, And they're going on about sacking Eddie Howe, who's bought them, riches that they'll never see again. It's about, with like Champions League and a League Cup, win and stuff like that, and yeah,
The
never mind.
difference is you might go, yeah, we need to sack our manager, and then you'll have a few reasons why, and you'll say that to your mate. You'll say it on a pod. You're not walking around from the ground with a tea towel on your head, or just dressed. I don't know. There was one a few games ago I saw on the TV. He was sat there watching the match, just a regular lad watching the match. For some reason, he had a hard hat on that he'd scrolled NUFC on with a Sharpie pen. We all want our teams to do well, but there's there's certain levels, and sometimes they are quite good for a laugh.
I mean, you go to a game with a hard hat on. Like, what possesses you to do that? Oh, I've just finished work. I've got no match with a hard hat on.
Well, we're in danger of slipping back into the conversation we had
Oh,
with Q&A the other day.
certainly.
So, as fun as it is, we've got 5 more games to get through because, again, we're going to the top 10 format, which, of course, is the Match of the Day top 10 format, which picks 10 things to rank in order. In part 1, we did the first 6 Sunderland victories in the Stadium of Light era. So today we've got 5 to run through. We're going through them in chronological order, and the lads are telling us where they've got them ranked, and then we'll kind of average them out and see what the order was at the end, and then you can disagree with us because they've even disagreed with each other, so that's absolutely fine. So getting back into it, for our next one, we go back to December 2014 for the third and final victory over the Mags under Gus Poyet, and this was, as I said, this was the 21st of December 2014. So this was the 17th Premier League game of the season. And we'd actually only won twice up to this point. I think we'd beaten Stoke 3-1 and Crystal Palace 3-1. We'd drawn 10 games out of 16, and we were just 1 point clear of the relegation zone. So we weren't doing all of that well. Newcastle were up in ninth, so they were trying to chase down the top six at the time. And of course, this one, Andrew, ended up a last-minute winner. We're not going to mention the goal scorer because he doesn't deserve it. But again, turning up to St James's Park, you look at the table, you look at the fact that we've won twice in 16 games. And if anyone listened to part one, they'll have heard us say it again and again during this run. But we just did. We don't travel there, or even if they came to us with a form looking like that, we would not have expected 3 points.
No, you're right. It shouldn't have happened, and yet it did. I seem to think shortly before kickoff, we might have had an injury problem and there was a bit of a change to the back four. So not only were we in poor form, but our plans were suddenly ripped up at the last minute.
Well,
And
can I just say as well, while you're on the back four, the run of 16 games did include the 8-0 defeat at Southampton.
oh, wow, yes. Yes. I mean, bless him, Gus Poyet has a pretty long list of highlights and a pretty long list of low. It was either one extreme or the other under Gus Poyet, bless him. Some managers just kind of bob along and nothing ever happens, but Poyet didn't do things by halves. Yeah, I mean, it was a good breakaway. It was that the third or fourth win in a row? I can't remember now.
It's a bit of fun,
Yeah. I remember in the final few minutes kind of saying, "Oh, that's a shame. We've not managed to keep that little run of wins going." Fourth, thank you, Chris. Chris is on the ball there. And well, you were as well, to be fair, Ant. So yet again, I was the only one who didn't know what I was talking about. But you kind of settle it with yourself, you're thinking, well, as long as we don't lose, we'll take a draw, and maybe after the game when the nerves have settled and the emotions have died down, you might revisit that and think, "Nah, we should have won." But I don't think we ever looked like winning against them. We were solid at the back. We then get this last minute winner. You're not expecting it. Everybody goes wild. And this podcast and the episode 1 has made me realize I'm just a horrible, horrible man, because Chris was quite right to point out I was just being mean about individuals. If you want to go to the game in fancy dress, if you want to go to the game dressed as T-Rex because the opposition goalkeeper's from Washington, do what you want. I'm a nasty man because my favourite memory about this win was it was about 5 days before Christmas. And I just thought at the time, well, that's that lot. They've spoiled their Christmas. That's their Christmas ruined this year. So I'm as bad as anybody else when it comes to pettiness and bitterness when you consider the rivalry.
Well, speaking of that, and again, I'm going from memory. I might be wrong. You might say I'm wrong with this one, but and I might be confusing games. But Jack Colback, because in the last game we talked about, he scored the third goal. This is 10 months down the line or something like that, and he's in the Newcastle side. Was this the game where Camel wiped them out, or was it the next one?
No, that's the next one. That's the home game.
I'm jumping ahead. But yeah, just talking about that, the fact that, during this run that we did get thumped 8-0 at Southampton. But as Andrew said, we were, ridiculous nature of Sunderland. We were also a substitute short because Revillaire got injured in the warm up. So we were sub short and we had to have a reshuffle. So all of these things going against us, and we still come out and get 3 points.
Yeah. I think John O'Shea was playing left back, wasn't he, due to that injury, due to Revier getting injured in the warm-up. And again, another one where I'm in the pub thinking we're going to get beat, and probably one where probably should have got beat. I think they've had some chances in that game. I remember, and you know how terrible I am with names. I remember Costel Pantimilon. I don't know if that's right, but it's the best I'm going to do. And maybe 2 or 3 really good saves, and obviously one where it's led to the goal where he's tipped one over the bar. It's a phenomenal save. And then obviously we've gone broke away. And Will Buckley, and probably his only ever meaningful contribution, sets up the goal. And yeah, absolute madness in the pub where I was in. I can remember that one. No, a great day out that one was. And again, it just goes to show, Chris, as we're seeing in all this and all these now, form goes out the window in derbies, doesn't it? Form, everything like that goes out the window. You expect to lose, you get in there, you're thinking, oh, this is going to be a difficult day. And it's a great day, and it certainly did make my Christmas. Not so sure about them down the road, but I think all I can remember, I can't remember much about the game. I don't think it was one to write home about. But again, just us finding a way to win, and Poirier, 3 derby games, 3 wins is quite a record.
Yep, he did. But we fast forward. Oh, and actually, just incidentally, you both had that one 11th. I don't think that one's any surprise with that one. But we do fast forward to the next one, because that's later in the season, because we go the 5th of April, 2015, and we talked about Gus Poyet and some downsides to that reign, and eventually he did leave towards the end of that season. I think, again, going from memory, I think the final straw was potentially a 4-0 defeat at Aston Villa. And I think that was one of the games where the TV cameras were big on catching Sunderland fans just disappearing from the game early on. We talked about those early leavers recently, Andrew, and this was one game. But we talked about managers as well coming in and having this fixtures, their first game, second game, whatever it was. And I think genuinely it was the second game, because Dick Advocaat came in to replace Gus Poyet. He'd had one game in charge, which is a defeat at West Ham United. And actually, we were talking about that first win in December against them. And Sunderland had won once in 13 games since we'd beaten them in the last game that we talked about in the December. And then again, so we turn up, and we look at the league table, and Newcastle are only in mid-table. They're only 13th, but they're on 35 points. We are a point above the relegation zone, 1 point above Queen's Park Rangers, and 1 point above Burnley, who are in 19th. So we are deep in the mess. We're desperate for a win. Again, talking about Aston Villa, who we got thumped off. They're only 2 points ahead of us in 16th. So it shows how we're 1 win in 13 since we beat them. Dick Advocaat's second game. And then we go and do it again.
That's such a peculiar quirk. how managers who were out of work at the time must have just looked to see when Sunderland were going to play Newcastle and think, I might be in chance with getting a job here. There's going to be a sacking at the stadium, I like soon. And no wonder that lot hate us, because this season we've beaten them twice, but at least we're kind of level pegging in terms of league positions. But yeah, how many of these games have you teed up by saying Sunderland were poor, Newcastle were higher than us in the table, and yet they still couldn't beat us? And it must really have eaten away at them for like a good few seasons in a row. The only things that kept us up were the points that they'd given to us in weird time derbies. So we definitely had a hex over them. And yeah, this particular game for me, I think I said in the previous episode, it's quite low down in the pecking order for personal reasons, but just another iconic Sunderland moment. Again, I think Tim Krul was involved. Didn't he get grief because at half-time, instead of being gutted, he was like laughing and joking about the goal he just conceded? Or did he try and swap shirts or something?
That was the Defoe volley where he gave Defoe a pat on the back and started smiling. That was a Defoe
Is that
volley.
what it was?
Yeah, I think this is the one where Papi Cisse had a go at Samson the cat.
What a line. What a brilliant line that is.
Well, Cisse wasn't in the squad for this one.
Was it?
I think it
He
was the
was
previous
on
one.
the bench. He was on the bench for them. It's definitely this one. It's definitely where he had a go at Samson the cat. He squared up to the cat when he was He was on the bench, I'm sure it was. It might have been the one before, but
Yeah, it was the one before.
was it? Aye, yeah.
But he wasn't. Oh, could have been the next one, actually.
It might have been.
I think it was the next one. I think it was the next one.
Yeah.
See, like I said, all of the things. but and this one is because I got it wrong the last one with the Cattermole Jack Pulse callback, because this is callback's second derby in a Newcastle shirt, and this is where Cattermole in this iconic picture where he's just looking over him, going, "What's wrong with you?"
Oh, I mean, probably. I don't know. Actually, I'm saying probably good job for. There's no amount he might be incentives. There wasn't that bad of a tackle, really. It was just nice. It was just meaty, wasn't it? But I mean, if we'll talk about like those photos. Like we mentioned the Kane Richardson photo and the Sorensen one where he's saving Shearer's got his hands on his head. But this is a cracking photograph. Whoever took that, like, is a well-made man now, isn't he? You know what I mean? Just that one where he's looking over him. I think they've done like a Schindler's List one, haven't they? Where it's just his red and white, and all the rest of it's just like black and white and all that stuff, and it's just him popping up like unreal. But a cracking tackle. But I'm with Andrew on this one. You know, I didn't class this one as that high up because, again, it was. I don't want to say kind of ruined by the red card because I mean it was hilarious, but again, just how easy it was in the second half. You know, we obviously in the first half it was like a 2-and-4, and then you know it was Connor Wickham, wasn't it? Who went through and Connor Cheney's all over him. It was Connor Wickham, Stephen Fletcher, all absolutely all over him.
I think you're on the next one.
The 3-0.
Yeah. Was it?
Oh, I was panicking there. I thought,
yeah, no, you're on the next one. You've gone forward to October. We're the 1-0. We're on the Defoe volley.
Oh, sugar. Sorry, yes. So this is the Tim Krill one. Aye.
And just gathers his points. Can I just quickly say, how many other derby games can you be talking one moment about the man having a fight with a 6-foot cat, to 2 seconds later talking about a piece of artwork based on Schindler's List? I mean, there's not many games that create that amount of intrigue, I don't think.
Yeah. So I do apologise. This is the game where Pappy Cisse. No, it's not the game where Pappy Cisse squares up to Samson the Cat. That's the next one. I think I'm on the 3-0. So this is the one where Tim Krul gets bollocked off everybody for to congratulate you in the foot. Right, sorry, I've gone too far here.
Right, there's not many, mate. But I'm not surprised we've been getting confused the whole time.
I wonder I've got confused, but this is the volley, and yeah, I mean, what a goal! And we mentioned before, poor Gav missed it. I nearly missed it because I'm literally on my way up to the gantry and just get absolutely surrounded by Sunderland fans. So I've got to see the goal. I mean, what a goal! What a goal! Is this the best goal ever scored in a derby? For our ones, it's well up there, and just for how well he hits it. For how well he hits it, and it just flies. It's on his weak foot as well. And he starts crying, doesn't he? When we come off at half time, you see him in tears. And again, we mentioned, you know, Quinn and Phillips and stuff like that, and Josie Antleton, Fabio Barini, you know, these strikers who Jermaine Defoe for us, just immense. You know, obviously his first period, obviously second period's not worth mentioning, but his first period he was just amazing. And that goal, just a tremendous goal. You know, the fact it's just so well hit, up and down into the net, unbelievable. And I think with that game as well, it's probably the only moment of quality, because it wasn't a good game of football. It's probably the only real moment of quality in the whole game. But what a hit that was! Absolutely superb. Great goal. And I think I only had this one 7th because the only reason I've added 7 was you had to remind us on about callback, because I forgot about that. But the goal's the only thing I remember from the game.
Interesting as well. Go on, Ant.
No, sorry. Go on.
I was going to say interesting as well. John Carver was in the dugout opposite Dick Advocat as well. I forgot about that at Newcastle. Were in the process of a change as well. But actually, just before we, because I want to bring Andrew in on that goal as well. But before we do that, I think we'll take a quick break. So we'll be back very soon.
Protein is now at Starbucks, and it's never tasted so good. You can add protein cold foam to your favorite drink or try one of our new protein lattes or matcha. Try it today at Starbucks.
Zootopia 2 has come home to Disney Plus.
Let's go!
Get ready for a new case.
We're the greatest partners of all time!
New friends.
Gary the Snake.
And your last name?
The Snake.
Dream Team. New habitats.
Zootopia has a secret reptile population.
You can watch the record-breaking phenomenon at home. Zootopia 2, now available on Disney Plus, rated PG. And right now you can get Disney Plus and Hulu for just $4.99 a month for 3 months with a special limited time offer. Ends March 24th. After 3 months, plan auto renews at $12.99 a month. Terms apply.
Going outside is so in during Springfest at Lowe's. For a limited time, get extra big deals on select Holland pavers, 3 for $1. Plus, save $70 on a Charbroil Performance 4-burner grill, now $179. And chef-up shareables for your whole crew. Picture-perfect patios and good food? Yes, please. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 3/30 while supplies last. Selection varies by location. Paver offer exclusive Alaska and Hawaii.
And welcome back to How It The Podcast. And we're right in the middle of talking about our 1-0 win against the Mags on Sunday, the 5th of April, 2015, Andrew. A couple of things I want to just mention about this. There was, and Ant started talking about it there, but the sheer emotion that came out, we talked about that run of, I think it was one win in 13 since December, since we beat the Mags the other time. I mean, in a season like this, I mean, God, let's just have a quick look. In a season like this, Sunderland won a total of 7 games, and 2 of them were against Newcastle in this season, which is absolutely ridiculous. And if you take those 6 points off Sunderland that season, we get relegated. Hull City, and we actually finish second bottom if we don't get those 6 points against Newcastle. But yeah, just talking about that emotion, and just quickly, because we've talked about so many, like this goal especially, and we're talking about Defoe, just feeling that emotion and feeling everything spilling out. I know there's the situation at the time that worries we were going down and changing managers, and Defoe was feeling it, but for a player like that who's been all over the place to come into a derby cold, almost not knowing about the place, not knowing about the area, and to get into it and feel like that. Again, you were talking about the ridiculous nature of some of the things that have come out of this derby, but that shows the other side, doesn't it?
It does. And Defoe has played like at the highest level in international tournaments and what have you. And I think every set of fans like to big themselves up and say, oh, well, our derby matters. Our derby's the fiercest or whatever. But yeah, the way it makes players behave does suggest that there's just something different. Because yeah, for every player that cries with joy, there'll be a player that just folds in the derby atmosphere and can't cope with it. So yeah, there's a lot of emotions in the stands, but it does filter through to the players. People do say, don't they, as long as we beat the Mags, I'm not bothered what happens the rest of the season. Well, in this season, we've pretty much got to find out what happens if that's the case, and it wasn't too enjoyable. But all this business about the goal and Ant talking about it was a fantastic finish and all of this. I've already said I wasn't at the game, so I don't want to hear any of this. I'm not having it. The only way I can cope with this is by convincing myself that it was a fluke, and that what he was trying to do was trying to put the ball in the box for somebody to head or something. That's the only way I can cope with it, by pretending it didn't happen. I knew I'd missed something major because I couldn't even see the game. We were away down in Hampshire with family and couldn't even watch it on the TV. And I just got a message off a mate at half time that just said something like, wow, that was the best goal ever. Mm. And there was this bizarre feeling of, get in. We must be winning. I'm over the moon. But, oh, bugger. I've missed like a one-in-a-lifetime situation. And like you, Chris, I think I caught the last few minutes listening to it on 5 Live on the drive home. And I remember thinking, oh, well, I've missed the game, but if I time this right, I might get into Sunderland in time to like enjoy some of the celebrations. And every other person was coming up to us and saying, "Oh, wow, what a goal. Wasn't it brilliant?"
Yeah.
Well, I'm just like, I'm sick of hearing about it.
Well, for our next one, 3 to go, and our next one is the following season. So it's our previous one was April 2015. We fast forward to October 2015, and by this point, of course, Dick Advocaat kept us up that season. That brilliant draw against Arsenal, and we managed to talk him around with some flowers and all that sort of stuff. And he ended up carrying on into the next season. But he loses his job. I think it was after a game. I think it was I want to say it's a 2-2 draw, or it might have been the West Brom game. No, because West Brom game was Sam Allardyce's first game because, of course,
Yeah, it was
you,
2-2, wasn't it, West
yeah.
Ham?
So the Newcastle game, once again, was a manager's second game in charge when we were in a really desperate situation. You look at the league at this point, and we are rock bottom of the table with 3 points after 9 games. We haven't yet chalked up a win on the board. Newcastle, though, they've got Steve McLaren in charge, and they are only 3 points better off, and they are third bottom. And actually, the bottom 3 at this point were Newcastle, Aston Villa, and Sunderland, which is pretty bizarre. And Chelsea were in the bottom 6 as well, actually, incidentally. But getting back to our game, Sam Allardyce, of course, it's his first home game and everything. And you were so excited about this, you wanted to, to get onto it pretty quickly. But you did have this 8th in your list because, even this was incredible. And to say you've got this 8th on your list is unbelievable when you think about it. Because, again, Allardyce's second game, everybody rocks up. There's over 47,000 there, even though we haven't chalked up a win in the first 9 games. And once again, but Newcastle were only 3 points better off, so it wasn't like out of the blue like the other ones. But still, we hadn't won all season to this point.
Yeah, no, it was one of them 6-pointers, wasn't it, down there, down there at the stadium, and obviously, as you said, Sam Allardyce's first game, and I kind of over the Allardyce tenure, you get bittersweet kind of memories from it, don't you? Because obviously it's the season we relegated them. But obviously, not long after that, he goes for England. It doesn't end up well, and what happens with Sunderland happens with Sunderland. So it's one of them bittersweet moments where it's what could have been, isn't it? With Sam Allardyce, it would have been interesting had he kept going, but it is what it is. But pardon me, I remember this game was. I think the reason again, because I kind of like got over it in the last one because I went too far. It was a really good win. I remember it being a really good win. I remember the red card being hilarious. I think the referee's actually made a very good decision because he is pulling Fletcher back. Fletcher tries to score. He misses. He pulls back for a penalty, doesn't he? And then he gets sent. Colaccini gets sent. I think because it's Colaccini getting sent, that was why I laughed at it. Because I didn't know. You know how, like we mentioned before about you dislike for certain players. I really didn't like Colaccini. I thought he was absolutely hopeless to begin with. But I also thought he was a complete and utter wet wipe. So, he wasn't.
It'd be easier for you to tell us which Newcastle players you liked, really, in the past.
I think sometimes where you can kind of give, even though you can't stand them, you can kind of say, well, they're good footballers. You know what I mean? But he was a shit footballer, and B, he was an absolute tosspot. So I was.
I wish you'd do what you think, man.
I'll sit on the fence a bit, but no, I thought it was. I thought that was hilarious, and obviously we scored a penalty. And then for me, the greatest one, there is 2 more great moments actually. Billy Jones scored, which just says it all, doesn't it? I mean, but fair play to him. And then Yunus Kabul with some wonderful technique to cross the ball in for Stevie Fletcher. And am I right in saying Yunus Kabul was ruled out for a few weeks after this game because he'd injured his groin setting up the goal? But he was mint. And like Yunus Kabul that season when we did steal, he was an absolute rock at the back. And obviously we got Kone, didn't we, in the January, and they had a wonderful partnership. But like Kabul, I wish he'd stayed longer. I really do. He's one of them centre halves. I really wish he'd stopped longer. But he obviously wanted to move back down south. But he was class. But yeah, it was one of them ones. I think because it's the last one of the 6 in a row, it was like it felt almost routine. You know, it felt that we were always going to be beating them. And as you said, it was a few of these games came off the back of sacking a manager or getting rid of a manager, bringing someone else in. And this was the same. It felt pretty much the same. So it was one of them ones where, yeah, as much it was mint, it felt mint at the time, and it was the sixth one. I think a few more of the other ones just were a little bit better for me. So that's why, I mean, don't get us wrong, it's a crack and beat them 3-0 at home. But I think it's just because it was becoming so much of a routine, it just barely registered.
Yeah, it was. I mean, God, if you went to the bookies, Andrew, and tried to put 3-0 on before this game, you probably would have gotten evens or something stupid like that. But yeah, I mean, look, again, we're talking about it, and I remember just thinking that goal at the end, 4 minutes from time from Stephen Fletcher was just the icing on the cake with this whole day. And it was huge as well, because you think about how the season panned out. That both clubs were deep in trouble, and this was massive in context of the whole season, wasn't it?
It was, because eventually they, if I've got my timeline right, they were relegated because of another 3-0 win at the stadium when we beat Everton. So yeah, it did have an impact. That final goal when Fletcher scored, normally when Sunderland score against that lot, it's just bedlam. But I remember that goal, I was chuffed a bit, but I was just so like, by that point, it was just so routine. I just remember having this like broad grin on my face, but I wasn't going mental. It was just kind of like, this is so surreal that like a 3-0 win in the third being a stunning goal. And yet there was no tension. It was just like, I don't know, I can't quite describe it. I think, didn't Ola Toivonen have to get brought off because he'd struggled in the game? We started the game badly. And quite rightly points out Billy Jones scored. Do you reckon Billy Jones sometimes thinks, hello lads, remember me? I did score against Newcastle. Patrice Carter on. Everybody remembers he scored against the Mags, and anybody who normally scores against that lot is a hero. But because Billy Jones decided to do it in a game that was so comfortable and so bizarre, because again, it was yet another manager in his second game in charge. It was our first win in ages. But people all just kind of felt like, yeah, this is what happens. It's matter of fact. So Billy Jones must be alongside John O'Shea saying, however, give us some juice here, lads. Just crazy. And a lot of these games, we can remember what pubs we went to afterwards and what we did to celebrate. I remember one time going to a pub in town that's no longer there called Langs and having a great time with my best mate. This game, I've said before on pods, Chris, I didn't even go to the pub afterwards. I had things to do. So I was like, I'm not going for a drink. No need to. It's not a special occasion, nothing to celebrate. I just went and did a bit of shopping instead because I had a long list of jobs I had to get through. It sounds like I'm being cheeky and disrespectful because any win over Newcastle should be a special day, but it was just like, yeah, this is what happens. We'll beat the Mags and we'll move on.
Well, it explains why you've got this one 10th in your list, Andrew. But yeah, just a couple of things. We had to make 2 substitutions before half time. Toivonen had to come off. Quartes came on, and Defoe actually came on from the bench. He replaced Toivonen, and actually Sebastian Quartes had to come off before half time as well. John O'Shea had to come on. But yeah, when you think about it, we finished 2 points above the Mags this season, and you take this win out, and that season could have been very different. And in typical Sunderland fashion, at the game after this, we go and get thumped 6-2 at Everton. But we'll leave that one there because this takes us up to the 2 in the current season. And it goes back to the first one in December, and this is one where you massively disagree with this because you've got this down in 10th of the 11, and Andrew's got this top of the pops. It's his favourite of the list. But I'm just to get into this because I remember talking about it at the time back in December. when we beat them 1-0 through Mackham legend Voltamade. Fantastic finish for all that money. Great striker. But I said at the time, Ant, that this felt like we'd gone through this whole journey from going way down in the depths of League One, finishing outside the playoffs in League One. Where's the club going? And, even when we won the playoffs, we got back, we had some great results. It wasn't really until when we beat the Mags in December, it was after that where I went, the club's back. The club's back in the Premier League and we're back at the top level. And I thought it was this one where you could almost bookmark everything that happened before off and say, right, this is a new chapter now.
And it's only for very selfish reasons why I've got it at 10. And the reason why I've got it at 10 is, and it's kind of teed up after the Defoe stuff. I missed the goal. So it's the only reason. I was having a week, and I'd been waiting for you, just getting a drink, had my drink. I thought, now it's going to happen in the first 2 minutes of the second half. I'd gone for a wee, hear a massive roar. I went, oh, for God's sake. And then went out to my mates who were all there, were like, oh, Voltamade scored an own goal. I was like, you're joking. And then to show the replay, I was like, oh, what a goal. So it's the only reason, and it's a selfish reason. If I put me sensible head on, it'll be in the top 5. Because as you've just said that before, the 9 years of being out the league and going through all that trouble of League One and stuff, and we didn't think those moments had come back. I think I've mentioned it on our little Q&A the other day. I don't think we thought these. I think there was certainly them times where we were getting beat off the likes of Cheltenham Town, Doncaster Rovers, Shrewsbury, League One. Doss is doing that stupid Shiva celebration. To go through obviously the playoffs and stuff, and have like that the bad, the unlucky one with Mowbray, but then having that terrible season under McBeal. And other managers obviously, and to come back having the Tommy Watson stuff, that was a moment where you did think, we are back. It was the capping of 9 years of shite, wasn't it? And to win it as well, and to win it fairly comfortably, even though it was an own goal, it was but there wasn't. They didn't lay a glove on us, did they? They did not get anywhere near our goal. I don't think they had a shot on target. Robin Roos had a really easy game. And Noddy Mucky earlier taking out Dan Burn was wonderful. But yeah, I mean, the celebrations, the before and after, I remember I was in Festa Tilly's in Sunderland, and it was class. The after was brilliant. Really, really good. So selfishly, it's already down there because it's one of the only goals in this list. It is the only goal I missed, but that's why it's down there. But for euphoric feeling and everything like that, it's probably top 5, maybe top 3. But I'll let Andrew, because he's got number 1, explain it a lot better than what I've just done.
Yeah, there you go, Andrew. You're all teed up. It's number 1 for you, and because actually you look at the game in general, it wasn't the best of games at all. But we don't care, do we?
Well, exactly. The record books say we won 1-0, and that's all that counts. A lot of it is what you'd said, Chris. It was the first game after their takeover, the first time we played them after that whole FA Cup debacle. It meant a lot that after the FA Cup carry on, that Sunderland stood up for ourselves and said, we're not taking it anymore from you. We're not taking you thinking it's acceptable to redecorate parts of our ground. And it just closed the door. Like you said, Chris, it closed the door on the years in League One, the double relegations. Sunderland were a joke. We were a laughing stock, man. People watched Sunderland Till I Die, and people said, oh yeah, the passion of the fans comes through. But also it was obvious that we were just an absolute shower in terms of an organisation. Here was the day when we said, no, we're Sunderland. Newcastle should have been out of reach, given what's happened in the last few years, but Sunderland have been through a renaissance. We've loved the way they've done it. the day of the game was the tifo, the scoreboard man, referring to them as visitors. There was the photo at full time where we were kind of getting our own back for when they disrespected us. This sounds very like chip on my shoulder, but whether it's right or wrong, as a community, people from Sunderland, people from Wearside, County Durham and that, have felt for a long time that Newcastle gets all the investment, it gets all the attention. People, not everybody, but people from Newcastle, there's a general trend of them looking down on us. But we didn't like tug our forelocks or doff our cap to them. We just stood up and backed ourselves and said, yeah, you might be the richest club in the world, you might be all these things you like to say you are, but we're going to come back and we're going to be stronger than you, we're going to be better than you. And if our trajectory like this continues in the next few years, I honestly think that day will be seen as like, I don't know, just like a real flag point, like a line in the sand where Sunderland have gone, no, we're a different club now. We're a proper club and we'll mean business. And as well, it's the emotional stuff. You mentioned games where you watched with your dad meant a lot. Well, this was the first time that I was there with my kids. I was there with my daughters, there with my nieces. It was special. We went to the pub afterwards, and like it was the first. My daughter my eldest had just turned 18. That was the first time we went to the pub together and had a drink. And the younger ones, I mean, they were on the fizzy pop or blue pop, as the mags will assume they were drinking. But it was a nice day. It was before Christmas. Everybody was happy. There was no trouble. It meant a lot to me. It meant a lot to the girls. And listen, I know I often get political and get a bit too over the top, but my girls, kids now are much more socially aware. The elder two, so my eldest and the elder niece, they have seen some of the irony and some of the like, why is this game that I'm falling in love with being ruined by like owners who are sports washing? And they're very socially aware, and they don't like the fact that a country where women are persecuted and people who are gay are not allowed to have a voice, that they're seen as bad people. These are young girls who are trying to grow up in the world and think, why is it acceptable that they're having an influence in our country? And why is it acceptable that, like, they've been to school and they've gone to uni and college and all of this, and members of staff have had digs at them because they support Sunderland. And they're like, that's not right. Why is a grown adult who's meant to be in a position of responsibility belittling me because I've mentioned that I go to the football with my dad? Just all of these things. And like, what, they're into women's football. They go and watch women's football, and what's going on there? Why does a regime that persecutes women now pretend to have an interest in women's football? So I think it meant a lot to them as well. Maybe I'm putting too much importance into it, but it was a real big day where there was a lot of these cultural events and cultural feelings, and we came out on top. And listen, it's just nice time and time again. We just remind them that, hey, listen, you might think you're better, you might have sold your souls, but football can be a good thing. It can be a family thing. And
that's what it's all about, Andrew. It was full. It was packed with symbolism, that game. But we proved last time out and last week that it wasn't a fluke, because we went to their place. And once again, I mean, you look how many times we've gone through these games. How many times have we come from behind, to beat them? And that on all these games out of the blue, when you just think we're down and out or whatever, and we're not going to get anything. And again, with this, it's just last week again. I mean, sometimes Andrew said it earlier on, and I think when sometimes if somebody said, "Can you just write a script on the one of the best ways for this to go?" And you wouldn't even think of a script like this for a game, but it makes it feel sweeter, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've just been looking back at my list because obviously we're on to the last one now. It's quite ironic that my top 5 are all us beating them at their ground. So, just so much. It's so much. It
Well,
is.
well, this one's third on your list, actually.
Yes, yes. This is number 3, and you know what? I didn't think my top 3 would get changed for a long time, but my God, Sunday was special. To put the Tacanio knee slide into 4th, I think, is well deserved. This was so special because, again, as we mentioned before, Chris, we've gone in with not great form. We've hit a blip in our season where rightfully or wrongfully people have been calling for a manager's head. As I said personally, I think it's madness to ever think that at the moment. They've been on a little bit of good running form, especially in the league. Beating Man United and Chelsea. Obviously took Barcelona all the way in the first leg of the Champions League. Was it a quarter final last 16, but not so much in the second leg. Coming off a 7-2 thrashing. But again, another one where they all thought they were going to win. They all thought they were going to roll us over. We saw that last week, where they all thought it was going to be 3 or 4-0. We've gone there, and yes, we've went there with a really, put together back 5. Melder Elborn playing only his 3rd game in the league. Luke O'Nien, who hadn't played many times in the league. I think it was only his 2nd or 3rd appearance in the league. Certainly only his 2nd start playing centre half. Obviously Mukiele being out injured. Ronaldo on the bench. Enzo Defoe only on the bench. So it wasn't a full 11, and giving them that goal, I'm still, I'm still fuming about it, but it doesn't matter. It's not now, does it? Giving them that goal, and you thought, oh, what's happening here? And then you just seen in the second half, just seen this change. And we've mentioned it before, how many times we've done this, how many times there's just been a change in our performance, a change in their performance. We get that goal through Talby. Just funny enough, Talby's now scored at Stamford Bridge. Liverpool. He scored Chelsea, Liverpool, and Newcastle. Some great grounds there to tick off, and he's got a worldie against Burnley at home. So fair play to him. And you knew, I think, and I don't know what you used to think, but I think you knew we were going to win that game. As soon as that first goal went in, I think you knew we were going to do it. They got that disallowed goal. It was rightfully disallowed, and then the big man, an absolute world-class display, I think that was on Sunday from Brian Broby. The fact he was just taking players out. He was bringing Noah Siddiqui into space. He was bringing Diarra into space when he was on. Chris Rigg and Talby were allowed to bomb form because of what he did. And for me, that's probably one of the greatest derby displays I've seen by a player, where a player just takes the game by the scruff of the neck, says, right, this is what we're going to be doing. And he was immense. And it was just rightly so he gets that winner. And we haven't really gone over how good the cross is from Enzo Defoe. The fact he nutmegs 2 of them. He nutmegs supposedly the world's best left back in Lewis Hall, and then nutmegs Dan Burn, and then Broby puts it in, and it was class.
Dan Burn was too busy dancing, wasn't he?
Well, he was dancing. Tino Livramento was standing like a statue, and Brian Broby moves and does so well, and it gets that goal, and that was special on Sunday. That will live with me. That moment will live with me for a long, long time. And you see, we run about this, which is, we've mentioned 11 games now, and some of them celebrations you do kind of think, what was I doing then? But I'll remember that one. I'll remember that one with Broby putting that in with me mate and all that, just jumping around and being in a bar which was mostly Sunderland fans, was mint. And obviously there's a video going around like on social media of me doing this celebration. It was actually because my other mate, who was a Mac, had done that when Nate scored, so I was rubbing it into him. He walked out. But it was class. It was class, and it just goes to show, as I mentioned before, with us this season, when you think we've just kind of hit a little bit of a a stumbling block. They pull themselves out somehow. We did it against Leeds earlier on this year, where we didn't go in form and we got this 1-0 win. We managed to, somehow get that. And, we've gone on a little bit of a bad run after that. And I think a lot of people thought we were going to lose. Newcastle going up 1-0, you were thinking, we might be lambs for the slaughter here, but we were class in that second half. And it just goes to show how good this season's been and how good this team actually is and how good our manager is as well, because, he teed us up perfectly. So it was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day, and it'll not be forgotten for a long, long time.
Yeah. Well, I know Ant seemed to know it was all going to play out. I can't say I was that convinced, Andrew, but you had this one fifth in your list, and again, we're talking about a game where we come from behind to take all 3 points against them.
Yeah, I was a bit wary of recency bias, so that's why it ended up fifth. I think perhaps in a few years' time, this might move a little bit further up, particularly when we know the wider context and if it contributes to some better times for Sunderland. That business about, Ant was convinced we were going to win and other people maybe weren't quite as confident. I think Newcastle certainly thought they were going to win. The way they went on, they put that great big banner just next to the Sunderland fans, Eddie Howe's Black and White Army, and a load of people have said from the Newcastle end, that was clearly designed because they thought they were going to win, and it was going to be like a nice photo opportunity to have all the Sunderland fans next to that banner. So that was nice because we often say they never learn. They're always full of talk before kickoff, and then it goes against them. Sweet as the last minute winner and the vitriol from the fans at that end of the ground. A lot of our good goals against them seem to be at that end of St. James's. I don't know if is that the Gallagher. I actually can't remember which way around. Is that the Gallagher or the Leazers or?
It's the Leazers, the Gallagher's the bottom, isn't it? The Gallagher's there where the home fans sit, yeah.
You know that Partridge clip where he's just shaking, saying, couldn't care less. That's what Chris has done there. But I was celebrating in front of them, and Joe Linton's tried to push a few of them, and we've just laughed in his face and continued celebrating him. Is it fair to say this has been the biggest meltdown of the lot? There's been
it's up there.
I think because of the modern era, there's so many clips and memes and Mickey taken getting shared round. It seems to all be off the charts. Like you said, that cross where we nutmegged two of them and Dan Byrne looked to have been pulling off some sort of dance move. I've seen loads of messages being shared where people have done daft Mickey takes out of that. It all adds to it because I don't know. I think when we beat Newcastle, I think a lot of genuine humour comes out, and we all have a right old laugh. It sounds mean, but we have a laugh at their expense. And we went from at the start of the season, it was going to be 6 easy points for them supposedly, and here it is. It's ended yet again with us schooling them. I don't think they've got an excuse this time. They didn't have to score the winner for us, which is what they cried themselves to sleep with in December. Just the whole thing, the whole deal was just like a chef's kiss in terms of just brilliant moments.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant to go through them all 11 of them. But I'm just going to put, just to finish off, just before I go through, and I'll just say what our top 5 was in a minute when I go through the averages. But Ant, just to put one thing to you, just to bookmark the whole conversation. We've gone through those 11 wins. It's fascinating actually when you go through all 11 of them, and how many iconic moments that we've got from all of those where, as you said, whether it's the photograph, whether it's that moment you'll never forget, the goal you'll never forget, the reaction you'll never forget. It's just something, and again, it might be difficult for me not to do as a Newcastle fan, but I'm not sure it's something they've got. We've got those massive iconic moments in these derbies. I'm not sure what they do.
I don't think so. No, I really don't. There's nothing like, obviously the 5-1 was probably their biggest highlight. You would see, because obviously they did annihilate us then. But there's been nothing like, as you said, there's been no worldy goal from them. Not that I can remember anyway. There's been like nothing like, you haven't had any of our players try and headbutt their mascot. You haven't had our goalkeeper laughing at one of their players scoring a really good goal against them. You haven't really had, I haven't had that moment. The only moment they, like I said, probably the 5-1, but they seem to remember the FA Cup game where obviously they beat us 3-0, but they beat a side under a poor manager and a side who were in a bit of a bad run anyway. But they still think, and this is the problem I think with Newcastle fans, without going too much into another round, they think we're still that team. They think that we're still the Mick Beale ran Sunderland who lied down and got their bellies tickled that day. In fact, the whole week we lied down, got our bellies tickled with the stupidity of what they did, giving them the away end and giving them that lovely that bit which ended up getting taken down. But they still think that we're that club, and we've just gone we've gone to the moon since then. You know what I mean? And that, then I think that they just can't. They can't like understand the fact that we've actually done it, and that they can't get to grips with it, that we've actually done this and we've done it the right way. And I think that's probably what it is. But you're right, though. I don't think there's, if any Newcastle fan are doing this and they're reading over their results, that they've not had like a Richardson free kick, for instance, not had Super Kev scoring that beautiful goal, as I said. Fabio Barini was the winner. They've not had the Canio lead slide moment. They've not had a Sunderland fan scoring for them against us. They've not had a world-class performance from their striker. Well, they have, but at the wrong end. Not had one of us scoring a stupid own goal. Obviously, the Ballard one in the cup, but it wasn't really a stupid own goal, was it? But they've not had it. They've not had that. And that's probably what makes this rivalry so much more towards us now. The fact that we've got their number a little bit, but the fact that we've just gone over that in 2 podcasts, and it's brought back so many memories. Like I said, the Catamore tackle, which I'd completely forgot about, and it's just brought back those memories. And yeah, it's that they haven't got that because they haven't been able to beat us regularly enough to do it, and that's not rubbing it in. I'm sorry, it's not. It's a Stonewall fact, guys. So yeah,
I like it. Well, let's go through our top 5 when you go through the averages. And in 5th, we go back to February 2014 for Gus Poyet's 3-0 win, the Jack Colback one and Liam Bridcut debut. In 4th, we had the last one. So we had the one last Sunday when we won 2-1, of course. In 3rd, we had August 99 in the rain. And in 2nd, we had the first win at home since 1980 in 2008. And top of the pops was November 2000 when we won 2-1 against Bobby Robson's Newcastle United side way back when. But we've really enjoyed it going through all of those 11 wins. I hope you enjoyed following. I hope you enjoyed putting yours in order as well. Tell us how much you disagree, because as I said, that's an average of us, but we completely disagreed on all of them. So don't worry about that. But it just leaves me to say, Andrew, and thank you so much, gentlemen. It's been fantastic. Really enjoyed it. Thank you for the memories. Yeah, just love going through that. So thank you very much, gents.
yeah. Cheers, man.
I've realised it brings the worst out of me. Sunderland versus Newcastle brings the worst out of me. Even when we win, I've done nothing over the last few days other than be mean and take the mick and have sly little digs and whinge. And, I always say that I'd like to think I'm grown up and I'm adult and I'm better and all this, and that I could quite happily forget about them. And then the fact that I've just spent however many hours talking to you two, boring your ears off with all these memories.
Never.
No, I don't know. Maybe I think I need to come to terms with the fact that I am obsessed. I try not to be, and I try and ignore them, but I'm as bad as everybody else, and I don't know. The only difference, here I am again, getting another little dig in. I think the only difference is my Mickey taken and my nastiness is talking to you lads who are fellow Sunderland fans. After all 11 of these victories, I can give you a guarantee at no point did I pick up a phone and send a message to a mag or go on a message group winding them up. So there you go. I'll try and convince myself that I'm a good person, but no, I'm not. I'm as bitter and twisted as the rest of us. And I love stuffing it up them.
Well, as you can hear, I don't think we could have had two better people on these pods to go through those 11 wins. So thanks again, gents, and thank you for listening. Of course, we'll be back with loads during this international break. We've got loads of time to do things like this, which is quite nice for a change. Other than concentrate on the next Premier League game, it gives us a chance to focus on the last Premier League game, which is quite nice in this case with the extended international break. But thank you very much for listening. Of course, check us out every single day on our podcast and check out the Roker Report website. But from us, it's bye for now.
Monster Energy. Everybody knows White Monster, Zero Ultra. That's the OG. It kicked off this whole zero sugar energy drink thing. But Ultra is a whole lineup now. You've got Strawberry Dreams, Blue Hawaiian, Sunrise, and Vice Guava. And they all bring the Monster Energy punch. So if you've been living in the white can, branch out. Ultra's got a flavor for every vibe. And every single one is zero sugar. Tap the banner to learn more.